We have a little Zoom meeting with the former members of Oingo Boingo who have the greatest Boingo tribute on the planet. And I mean, having seen you live so many times, I'm just blown away by your energy. And I'm so excited to see you on Saturday, the 24th, this coming Saturday in Ventura at a drive-in show. Is this going to be your first drive-in show?
Yeah, yeah.
It's our first drive-in show, yeah, for sure.
It's our test drive.
So how have you prepped for this particular show? Is it going to be different from the other shows that you've done in the past? You've done so many great performances.
Well, what do you think, Sam?
Well, I'll say this, we're pulling out all the stops for this show because we haven't played in so long. We want to really beef up the performance and the songs, and we're just playing a lot of earlier material and some later material, but we're just really packing it in with a bunch of great songs. So we're going to make it it's going to be a big event, hopefully.
Now, I got sent a provisional playlist that you've got for Saturday, and it is just amazing. I mean, I'm going to hold it up for a second so no one can see it really. But it's like, you know, everything that a fan would ever want from Oingo Boingo is right here on this playlist. It's amazing. How'd you come up with it? Is it, you know, is there one of you that says this is what we're going to play, or is it a group meeting?
John always starts it. He comes up with a big list, and everybody says, well, "I don't want to play that one. Can we do this one?" And then we argue for about a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we come up with it. Yeah, it's what I try to pull together a set list. There's two major seasons, and that's Halloween, where people come that are really loyal fans that want to hear a lot of Oingo Boingo's, you know, really some of the hits. And then the deep cuts usually come in our shows in May, halfway through, where we play more. You know, there are so many great songs to play. We actually have a time limit we can play. The city of Ventura will close us down. So we've packed in so many great songs. And, you know, hopefully we'll get a chance to get them all done. It's going to be a great show.
This is an anthology of Oingo Boingo. This is amazing. I mean, the Eagles just released a double live album from the Forum from September of 2018 with 26 tracks on it. You've just blown it away. You've got more than the Eagles right here. But I'm so excited to, again, hear these live because, you know, kind of growing up with the music as I did, and just about everyone in Southern California did, when I see these, they just make me feel so good. And it takes me back to the first time I saw Oingo Boingo. And you guys will remember, you won't remember me because I was just in the audience. I was working up in San Luis Obispo at a station called C93. So I was able to get tickets to see a group called The Police. And the Police were playing at the Fabulous Forum. And their opening band was Oingo Boingo. And I just remember being blown away. It took me about 10 minutes to work out what you guys were doing because the music was so different, the performance was so different. Danny had 2 6-guns on his holsters. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I remember it so clearly.
Hard to forget.
The worst thing was that tour with those, he'd pull those out and shoot them in these little tiny clubs. And so our ears were like ringing.
But it was so amazing. I mean, because the Police were massive at the time. I mean, they had Zenyatta Mondatta, and normally an opening band, the fans would be like, come on, get off. We want to see the headliners. And when I saw 16,000 people on their feet and realized I was one of them, it just blew me away. And I mean, within, like I said, the first 10 minutes, I was like, what is this? And then 20 minutes in, I was just a diehard fan. And it was Boingo all the way. How was that moment in time for you touring with the Police?
Oh, the police were great, right? Because we had the same manager, Miles Copeland.
Right.
So it was actually really a lot of fun. You know, the guys were really friendly at that time, and Stuart was really wonderful. Yeah, man, it was very, very exciting.
But the forum was terrifying. So our tempos were a little fast, and we were a little scared being in that position. I was a little scared being in that position.
Well, I mean, being a Southern California guy, you would be, because I mean, the Forum is like one of the peaks to play at. You play at the Forum. That's where everyone who is anything in music, that's where they aim for, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
we were there 3 nights, I think. Steve, you remember better than me.
I don't remember at all. I
think we were
it was definitely multiple nights. Yeah. But that was amazing, and to see you guys there and holding your own blew me away. You know, I mean, it was just incredible. And ever since then, of course, you know, Boingo and Southern California has gone hand in hand. But having said that, with your gig coming up in Ventura, I posted on Facebook and talked about your shows on Sirius XM and asked if anyone had any questions.
Oh boy!
So I printed these out, and they are not just.
Oh, you want to pass me a list?
Yeah, there you go. Here we go. All right. So the very first one, I'm just going to read these in no particular order. We're just going to run these through, and feel free to go on a tangent if it suggests something to you about the upcoming show on the 24th in Ventura at the County Fairgrounds. Just bust into it. But the first one is from Brian Alsop. And he said, I would love to know how you guys feel about the digital world. I remember going to a record store every week to buy new music and to go through the albums in the racks. Now my kids sit at a computer and they wait for the album to be released and download it. Do you say to your kids, back in my day?
Sam?
Yeah.
Back in my day. Oh, what else? There's something else.
But no, what do you feel about digital music and the way streaming has changed?
The irony of it is, if you go to, well, of course, Amoeba's closed for now. Everything's closed for now. But if you went into a record store, Oingo Boingo CDs are pretty much all out of print. Thank you. What's your name again?
Ryan.
Yeah, it's almost all out of print, so they have to download it. And maybe there's greatest hits or something available, but you know, it's the modern world, and you know, now kids, of course, kids are now getting more into vinyl and records, and everything's kind of going backwards because now they're discovering like the Beatles on records and the Police or us maybe, but the modern world's, what are you gonna do? It's you know, it's how people get their music now. So God love them.
That's very true.
Now, talking about people discovering you, on page 3, I had one from Litzy Rodriguez, who says, I'd like to ask how you feel about a younger audience like myself. I'm 19, discovering your music today.
I think it's absolutely incredible. And I really appreciate that because, you know, everybody's jumping around doing a show and I get to sit on my throne and kind of look at everybody in the audience, which I've been doing my entire career, no matter who's walked into a club. And these young people coming in that are hip enough and cool enough to understand that this music is still alive and a lot of things haven't changed, and they're excited to sing these songs. It's absolutely, it's inspirational to us. We noticed it about 3 years ago at the Whiskey. We played a show at the Whiskey, and most of the crowd was under 30, and they were all singing our songs, and they were like, what is this? And as you know, as the years progressed, they started bringing their kids. So there are more kids at our show.
Yeah, that was kind of nice. The last year, few little tours that we did, there's a bunch of parents and their teenage kids that they were bringing to these shows that were actually fans and loved it. Usually you think of parent and child the child would resent what the parent actually enjoyed. But I was finding that people came up to me that were father and son, or father and daughter, and they're both enjoying what we were doing. It was just like, it was a big surprise. And
yeah, I think my philosophy on this, when I've been asked in interviews about this myself, and playing gigs, and do you have younger people at the gigs? When I say yes, I said I think it's because kids, when the first exposure to music is they get hold of their parents' iTunes library, and they just go through it and they download what they think they like and just delete what they don't like. They don't look at the date it was released and say, oh, this came out in 1980, I don't like it. This came out in 2006, I love it. They just say, oh, this sounds good. And that's why when I do a gig, people will come up and say, could you play I Love Little Girls and Aha, Take On Me, and the new one from Billie Eilish? And to them, as long as it's a good song, it doesn't matter when it was released.
That's really good. Excellent. Yeah.
So there you go. Oingo Boingo and Billie Eilish right back together.
They are, yeah, and it is that amazing. The songs have so much life and so much of a message that it makes me feel young.
And you got to stay young, because I've seen you pounding the drums. I've seen you in Vegas pounding the drums when it's 114 degrees, and I'm like, how is Johnny holding up? Because the sweat is coming down, and you are hitting those drums, man.
Yeah, it's amazing. I amaze myself afterwards. I go, Marie, I think we pulled it off again. This is like,
but it's all because of the pickle juice.
That's right, the pickle juice. You never cramp up without pickle juice.
And not Beetlejuice.
Not Beetlejuice.
Oh,
No.
Now, next question is from Lisa Bowie. Not Baba Bowie, but Lisa Bowie. And she says, what and who inspired you to become musicians? So if you want to go on round and answer one at a time.
Maybe.
Steve. For me, it was like these guys came along in the third grade and showed demonstrated the instruments for the kids, and I fell in love with the flute. So that was what started me on in music, was taking
a real
flute.
chick magnet there.
Well, the cutest girls in the class were also taking the flute.
Well, there you go. Smart move.
I did get to sit next to Terry Peterson, who at that point I had a crush on.
Did she break your heart in the end?
Of course. Yeah, she didn't care. She cared about the flute more than she cared about me.
There you go. Sluggo, how about you? What inspired you?
My whole family played instruments, and my mom played guitar, and my sister played guitar, and my little sister played lute, and I wanted to play guitar. And one Christmas, I kind of saw this case like hidden away in the house. I thought, Mom, you got me my guitar. It turned out to be a banjo. And so I took banjo lessons. I took bluegrass banjo, and finally I had this really hip teacher who also played saxophone, and he kind of turned me on to jazz and tenor sax and stuff. And so that kind of got me. I played a lot. I played French horn, I played clarinet, I played trombone, and I realized, you can't play trombone in a rock band. So I finally switched to saxophone, and that's what I've been doing ever since, trying to figure out how to play it.
Wow, and sounding good too. How about you, Johnny? When did you start annoying the neighbors with the drum kit?
Well, I grew up, there was always music going on every weekend. There was some sort of Saturday night party ethic that went on in my house. People were dancing and people would drink and sing all kinds of songs. And my cousin started playing guitar, and it was about in 8th grade. I used to watch the Ed Sullivan Show all the time. And I saw the big bands, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. And so the drummer was always stood out. And right about that time, the Beatles came out, and my cousins were starting a band, and they asked me to play. They said, hey, can you play drums? So in 8th grade, I started playing drums. I learned to play Wipeout, and that's how it all started.
Wow.
The Beatles and an 8th grade 8th grade dance.
And by the way, I don't want to freak anybody out, but Johnny is not a floating head.
That's right.
There is something attached to the head, so just don't be freaked out, okay?
It's almost like the start of the Twilight Zone now.
Well, this is, the start of something.
So the next one is actually just a shout out, but it was so nice. It was from a guy called Dan Newitt. And he says, I remember them so well. I wrote them a letter in the 1990s and they were so kind and wrote back to me. I would love a shout out. I'm listening in the UK. So you wrote to some guy in England and he remembers it to this day. So if you could give Dan Newitt a shout out, that would be great.
Okay, Dan Newitt.
Oh, Dan.
And the UK, man, thank you very much for sending us that letter. That's cool.
Back in the old days, where you put the stamp on the envelope, right?
Yeah.
The next one,
and it would show up. Actually, yeah.
Yeah,
It would get delivered.
yeah, but now, of course, nothing will get through the mail because of mail fraud, right?
There you go.
Yeah, which I don't understand, but anyway. Svetko Guterres says, "What and where was your first gig together? Do you have a story about it?" Svetko.
Ooh.
Let's put our heads together, boys.
Yeah, I don't know, because we all came into the Mystic Nights at different times, right? So you and Sam and Steve were there from the beginning, and I joined. After I did the Tony Basil show, I thought I was going to join a rock and roll band, and they said, "Oh no, by the way, the band's called the Mystic Nights of the Oingo Boingo, and we wear costumes." So that was my first gig. So that was our first. Madam Wong's.
And what did you think after you got off the stage after that first gig? Did you think, all right, it's the first gig, but I'll do more? Or were you like, we're going to have to talk me into coming back?
Did I lose Steve?
No, Steve, Steve's coming.
He's coming back.
I was in heaven. I loved it because I love vaudeville. I love outfit changes. I love the zaniness and the craziness, and I never got bored. There was like 3 outfit changes, and we were doing calypso music and gamelan and Balinese music, and Sam always looked incrable, and Steve was not.
We made you put spit curls in your hair. First time.
Right. I had a bunch of hair, so they made.
When he joined the band, he had a do. It was like, all curled out like
the 70s do.
So for the first gig, we said we'd do it to everybody, and had like little pieces of cloth tied into his hair all over.
Wow.
He said everybody has to do that at the beginning. He cut his hair after that.
Cool.
I did.
And how about your first experiences?
Me?
Yeah, with Boingo.
When I joined the band, I auditioned as they needed someone who could play Django Reinhardt style, which is something I had always loved. It's not particularly great at it, but I passed the audition, and so the first gigs were I'm trying to remember what the first gig. It was at the that old theater in Santa Monica.
Westwood Playhouse.
No, it wasn't even Westwood.
The music hall.
Music hall. That's something music hall.
Yeah.
With they had the 2 percussionists that were playing Django Reinhardt solos on marimbas, and I think I think Laurie Mann was still playing accordion.
Wow.
It was before we did the Gong Show, and it was complete opposite of what I thought my career at that point was going. I was playing at the Baked Potato doing jazz with cocktail, better than cocktail with Don Randy, who used to be was a keyboard player in the crew. So it's kind of a high. It felt like a good gig, but the moment I started playing with the Mystic Knights, it changed my perspective on where I belonged.
Wow. And Sluggo, how about you?
Oh, well, like they all said, the Mystic Knights, it was more of a street theater group. And we had some crazy gigs. I think we played Hugh Hefner's birthday party at the Beverly Hills Hotel. we played up in Topanga at the Mermaid Tavern, which used to be a brothel. But the beginning, I know it's hard to believe. I was kind of I had stage fright, but we wore gorilla suits. So I didn't have any stage fright because we had this gorilla suit on, and then we would take them off and do this crazy show. And I remember that show, the landlord turned the power off. So we played acoustically. And I remember Joni Mitchell was there. That's like one of the early gigs we did. I don't know if Steve, I think you were there.
No, I wasn't there, but we did do the whiskey late one night after there was some sort of sex show that was on during the day, and we came in after the show.
You mean Danny's dressing room?
Oh,
a different show.
Yeah, it was the same thing. They turned the electricity off because the police were coming, and we went on the show anyway.
Yeah, wow. Not the band, the police.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to hold something up right now because I'm going to do a ticket giveaway. So we won't say what it is. They have to identify what I'm holding up. All right. There you go. Someone who loves Oingo Boingo. That's their nickname. So there we go. We're going to move on to the next question. And that is Pamela Biasi in New Jersey. She says, will you guys ever come east to do a show? Because the fans there never get to see you. Maybe a summer show in 2021 after COVID on the New Jersey shore. Would you guys be up for that?
Love it.
We'd love it. We were actually, before COVID, kind of stopped everything. We were working with a promoter to take us back east. We were thinking about doing it last, a while back, but it just kept getting put off. So we are working on it. We do want to get there. Live Nation wants us to go there. So if they want us to go, by gum, we're going to go.
Right. Well, that would apply to Florida as well, because I've got one from Florida. I can't find them. Oh, here we go. Travis Chioso said, would you ever come to Florida? So I'm sure that's the same answer, right? If you're going back to New Jersey, you'd try and do the whole coastline and go down to Florida.
Sure.
So Travis, watch out for these guys because they might be coming after we've all got our vaccine. By the way, have you had had your flu shot yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
I have mine. Krista had hers, and no side effects. So we're still here.
Yeah. It's good to do, but if you're an anti-vaxxer, I'm looking at the bottom right corner. I guess you won't get one. So.
Oh, Steve, hi.
Me?
Are you anti-vaxxer?
He reads too many medical journals. Right. That's the problem. No, I'm just being presumptuous as usual.
Oh. Okay. All righty.
Anyway, next question.
Next question comes from Will Wheaton of Star Trek: The Next Generation and Stand By Me, and he narrates so many audiobooks, and he is huge fan of yours. I've known Will since he was 15 and gave him a ride home after 101 at the Rose Bowl with Depeche Mode, and he actually sent this in on my Facebook page for you guys. So he said, when Oingo Boingo played the US Festival, the MTV jocks couldn't believe this band that they'd never heard of at the time was so popular in Los Angeles and Southern California and had 200,000 people dancing. I grew up here, so Boingo was always a huge part of the soundtrack of my life. Thank you to K-Rock. I just presumed Boingo was well known everywhere as they were here. Since that wasn't the case in 82 and 83, because you guys played both US festivals, one of only two bands to do it, English Beat and Oingo Boingo. Do you remember the moment when you broke nationally and what changed? And thank you for doing this. I'm a huge fan, and your music means more to me than you will ever know. And Will Wheaton, one of the nicest, most honest people you could ever meet. Just great. So when did you break nationally?
Well, I think Weird Science was the first song that broke on the radio nationally.
And we ended up in New York. I played the Ritz Theater in New York. So we finally made it to the East Coast. So I guess we were nationwide then.
Yeah.
And did it change things for you when you broke nationally, when Weird Science came out?
Well, I think not so much the nationally, but the gig with opening for the Police, I think precipitated a lot of national motion, because DJs like noticed us after that, and the gigs started getting better. We opened for the Police in 2 places back east too, at a big park
in Florida.
Those couple gigs actually, I think, seeded the national exposure more than maybe even Weird Science. Weird Science got the radio play, but I think the other one got us more gigs around.
And back to school, did that help as well for Oingo Boingo?
Oh yeah, yeah, that really helped, because that, you know, that put us in a movie, and it was just so goofy, and like, what is that? Yeah, that really helped us out a lot.
Yeah,
You guys, meeting Rodney always helps everybody.
it made us all feel good about it anyway.
All right, and thank you, Will Wheaton. And the next question is Suzanne Hansen. She said, as a die-hard Oingo Boingo fan, I thought the magic could never be captured without Danny singing lead. Some, however, you have found the most amazing, perfect singer to take his place. I'd love to know which one of you negotiated with the devil for him to sell his soul so he could perfectly channel your music and energy in every show. So who was the negotiator with Satan? That's the question she wants to know.
Oh, that, you know, what's really funny is that I met Brendan's brother at a solstice celebration, and he said, you know, Bear goes, I have a band. He was going to USC, and my brother and I, we have a band, and we're looking for a drummer. I said, I'll play for you. So I would go to USC and practice with Brendan and Bear. And then all of a sudden I said, you know, I'm going to be doing some shows. You ever heard of the band? And they were like, oh, you know, we love the band. We love Oingo Boingo. And Brendan goes, oh, I love the band. So I go, okay, man, you ready to sing in my band? You know, and he go, oh, yeah, sure, why not? And Brendan is just an amazing, amazing singer and frontman. And he loved Danny, and he loved the band. And he's very emotional, very sensitive, and he didn't want to be just a Danny clone. So he really took it to heart, and he's really taken it to another place. I mean, the band is an amazing, powerful band that would mow down any singer, and Brendan has taken it to another place, and it's brought life to the music again. And we're really fortunate to have him in the band. And he didn't have to sell his soul. He tells a story of how he was graduating high school, and he was his band sucked. You know, they had a song played for everybody, you know, rehearsed, and nobody wanted to rehearse. Nobody knew the song. So he goes, wait, we're going to do this song. And he showed everybody We Close Our Eyes. And they walked out, and for his high school graduation, he played We Close Our Eyes. The band never sounded better, and the entire audience sat there in tears. And wow. So that was the first time he performed Oingo Boingo music, was at his high school graduation. So now to be playing with him when he was in college, and for him to be involved with us, it was magic. Magic meant to happen.
I think it only takes a couple of songs for the diehard fans who haven't seen you yet without Danny and with Brendan, because once they get into it, they realize they've got the power of the real band behind them, and they got this front person who does love the music, and that comes through to the audience.
Yeah, that's true. The thing with Brendan is he loves the original recordings, but he really sings it in his own. He doesn't like imitate anybody. He sings it in his own way, which is super powerful. And sometimes you listen to it and you think, wow, it sounds just like the record. But really, he's just singing the way he sings. And by the way, he knows every effing song we do, which is incredible. I still can't believe when we do some of these songs, he's like, I said, Brendan, how do you memory. He goes, "Oh, I've been singing these songs for 20 years or something." He knows every song we've ever done. So it's always a pleasure to play with him, because he's just like so solid up there and just sings great.
I always think that about singers, how they remember all the lyrics. And if you go to a lot of the big concerts these days, you'll see the monitor down there that Bono uses, and so many others, quite understandably, because how do you remember all of this? But when I saw you guys in Vegas the last time before COVID hit, there was no monitor. It was just bam, incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do another question here. And I have no idea about this. That's why I want to ask, because I want to learn a little about it. And he's up in San Francisco. His name is Gary Glasser. And he says, was there any recording, video or audio, of Oingo Boingo with the Clubfoot Orchestra at the Warfield in San Francisco? Even Google doesn't seem to know you played together one time. And from the look on Johnny's face, you don't know.
No, for a recording, no. I remember this. I remember playing there.
Yeah, we did the Warfield a few times, and I think the Clubfoot Orchestra may have opened for us, because I remember the name of the band, but I don't think we ever recorded anything together.
No.
Okay. Well, that's Gary Glasser in San Francisco. So the answer is, unfortunately, no.
No.
Now,
but in San Francisco, we did take a tour of the Residence Warehouse, so we got to see where they worked and stuff. And I don't know who was with us. Steve, Residence.
Oh yeah, right. The
Residence. Remember, we went to their place and saw their magical kingdom. I don't know.
That was strange.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Greg Flores. If you had to do one last show, and it was all of the original members, horn section, Danny, everybody together, where would you stage that show? And what song would you insist had to be on the set list?
Well, the answer is obvious for the first part of it, which would be Coachella, which is where it's been bubbling under for a few years to do that kind of show. But the song, I don't know, what's the song I get that giant solo on, John? Not Runaway. Is it Runaway?
Is it?
Yeah, Runaway. It's Runaway.
Runaway.
Yeah.
I like to play, so give me a song to play. But of course, we'd play Goodbye, Goodbye, because we always say goodbye at the end of the show. So I don't know. We play everything anyway. I mean, it's hard to pick song now, right?
Steve, what would your venue be, and what song would you fight for?
I'm not so sure I'd go for Coachella, but a venue. I mean, I come up blank with a venue.
Okay, but is there a song?
A song. We do this, and I would really want to do it with the band, with every original members, because we stopped, almost never played it after the first record came out, which Nuclear Babies, which we do with this band, but on occasion. But it's one of those songs that it just feels like it goes to the Beach Boys. It goes to a lot of places in the kind of song it is, and I just kind of like it.
Perfect. Nuclear Baby. And Johnny Vatos.
Oh man, that's a hard question, because I love all the tunes and I love everywhere we play. Irvine Meadows isn't around anymore, but that was like the perfect place to play. 17,000. That's a good manageable crowd.
I have a lot of comments about Irvine Meadows here.
Yeah.
Yet someone asked about Irvine Meadows, if I can find it quickly enough. And that was, basically the question was, Irvine Meadows and Halloween was so much fun and such a tradition in Southern California, and the fans loved it. Did you guys love it as much as the fans did, or did you just go through the motions up there? And I asked that part because I just watched the Go-Go's documentary, and Jane Wiedlin was saying that when the band was fighting with each other in like 84 and 85, they had an expression called Robo Go-Go. And they would be fighting in the dressing room, and then they go, okay, now we've got to be Robo Go-Go. And they go up on stage and do Vacation, stuff like that. But for you guys, was Halloween at Irvine Meadows with those 18,000 people, was that as special for you as it was for the fans?
I say yes.
Yeah.
Boy, Steve, what are you gonna say?
What are you gonna say,
I have to
Steve?
say every gig was kind of special because it takes so much, the music takes so much concentration and interplay between us as musicians that there's not a moment that we can go on there as robots.
Yeah.
That's great.
And we didn't fight that much either.
No.
Not in front of each other anyway.
Now we got
Yeah.
another one here. I want to find. Someone's got 4 lots of tickets to see you. Here we go. This
Wow.
is Cheryl Bobroff, and she says we have 4 carloads coming to Ventura on the 24th, and we have never missed a Halloween concert. I've always wondered, when you used to have videos in the background in the old days, how did you pick the videos? Because I remember one specific Oingo Boingo concert at the Palace in the 80s, where there was a film of a woman throwing up Biz detergent. She said, that's the only time I've had to look away from the stage when Oingo Boingo was on. So who was
Steve,
responsible?
Well, a lot of it was Danny's. Danny would go through and pick film clips, and Charlie, he was doing our lights and our
in our artwork,
fan club and T-shirts, and he and Sean Riley together would help put together these clips. But I think a lot of them ran by Danny. I mean, the clips were thrown at Danny. Danny picked which ones they were. I think the band members didn't have much to say about it.
we didn't. It was amazing sometimes to look back and see what was going on, and it was funny to hear Sam go, "Now what was that? What the heck was that?" But we'd see some stuff. It was like, whoa.
The other thing we used to do was that there'd be a tape of music before we came on it, before the films, and they'd do things like Ema Sumac, and we'd have was it Louis Armstrong doing there's some old film Louis Armstrong. So it was always the fun stuff before the show. Well, I went to go see Primus, and they played beforehand. I forget what it was, but they played an Oingo Boingo song before they came on at the Universal Amphitheater a long time ago.
Well, that leads me to another question then, Steve. But before we do that, just say hi to Cheryl and her 4 carloads coming on
Hey,
Saturday.
Cheryl.
Hey, Cheryl, 4 carloads.
Sorry we can't come out and shake your hands.
Yeah.
Don't forget the jumper cables.
Now, Steve, you led us perfectly into this next question from Gilbert Maynard. And Gilbert says, what band playing today is carrying on the style and quality of Oingo Boingo? Is there one that you know about today?
Oh boy.
In other words, original, great songs, great performances, because in all honesty, there was nothing like Oingo Boingo at the time. I mean, you guys obviously started as a theater troupe.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I'm at a loss.
I'm at a total loss.
I mean, there are all kinds of.
There are some great bands out there.
There are great bands out there, but to pick, I mean.
Okay, we'll go with the Spice Girls and we'll leave it at that.
There you go.
All right, let's go for another question. Here we go. Let me find one. What song? This is from San Felipe Bob. San Felipe Bob says, what song gets the band really ramped up when you perform it live?
Gee, all of them do.
Johnny's going to say, who do you want to be? Because that really starts everyone's heart pumping, and it picks up the tempo, and
we all get to
a
dance.
little wild, and
Yeah.
and then everything else kind of is okay after that. But I think that song really gets everyone going.
Wakes us up.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, and now I'm gonna put Johnny on the spot, and I'm not gonna tell you why. It's got nothing to do with any questions or anything like that. Give me the name of a band that you've played with.
Oh, Tito and Tarantula. And
Keto?
we were Tito and Tarantula. We were in that movie From Dusk Till Dawn, and it was a big hit. I tour Europe with them to this day, and they're a great band.
That's all we need to say. I'm not going to tell you why I asked that particular question.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that down, and let me just click off a Apple update. No, I don't want to update my iTunes right now. Go away, you silly thing. All right, we've got a couple more questions, and then I will let you guys go, and look forward to seeing you on the 24th at the County Fairgrounds. It is a drive-in show. Everyone's going to be socially distanced, and it's going to be incredible because you're going to see the guys on this huge stage, and the cars are going to be there, and the music's going to be pumping. And I'm so looking forward to doing the opening for you guys. It's going to be fantastic. So here's a question from Stephanie Fry. She is in Boston. And Stephanie says, Dead Man's Party, Just Another Day, and Weird Science seems to be the Oingo Boingo songs that are always played on the radio. Which Oingo Boingo songs would you want to hear on the radio? What do you wish you could ask the programmers to play?
I'm so bad.
Which one?
I'm so bad.
I'm so bad?
It was only on our EP, I think, way back.
Okay.
Sam.
Sluggo?
I like Only Makes Me Laugh, which we do live, and I don't think you ever hear that. You never hear that anywhere.
Yeah. That was on Danny's solo album.
Oh, I'm sorry to say that.
And Danny's solo album really was an Oingo Boingo album because all you guys played on it, correct?
Yeah, it was. Everybody played on it. It was a manipulation as we moved from one record company that dropped us to another company that took Danny, and then he insisted that they sign Oingo Boingo also. And then after that, he just never did another solo album because he was more interested in keeping the band going.
So it's like one of those bridge albums or one of those live greatest hits that a band will put out at the end of a record deal or to fulfill that 7th album of the contract or something like that.
It actually was the opposite. It was the first record with a new company. And the new company wasn't particularly interested in the band.
But Danny pushed it in.
Danny did his solo album is mostly a band record, and he pushed them to sign the band and then kind of let his solo deal go.
Okay, cool. And then back to Johnny Vatos here, who's now the radio program director, who's going to pick one Oingo Boingo song that wasn't on that list to be played for radio listeners. What would you choose?
Oh boy, I choose Gray Matter.
Oh, great song. And great opening to that, everything. I love Gray Matter is one of those terrific go-to songs for me.
Sure.
There's no guitar solo and there's no sax solo. What kind of song is that?
Oh, that's right. Oh man, I'm gonna get it now from Sam and Steve.
Johnny's shutting you down all of a sudden. All right, we'll do 3 more questions, and then we'll look forward to coming up on the 24th. The former members of Oingo Boingo on stage at the Ventura County Fairgrounds, and until hell freezes over, this is the best Boingo you will ever see. You got to be there. I mean, it's going to be incredible. So someone asked, you were talking about transitions, Steve, and different albums. I had a question here. I'm trying to look for it. Oh, here it is. Mark Keneally. Mark Keneally says, why was the final studio album released under the name of Boingo and not Oingo Boingo? And why was that album so much darker than the previous ones?
There you go, Steve.
Well, it was switched from Oingo Boingo to just Boingo because B shows up earlier in the record store. It was on purpose, but it was also because people had been, for years, nobody really got the name right except for K-Rock.
Right.
It was like Hinky Pinky and all.
Yeah, Ingy Bingy, yeah.
Funny. So Danny and we all kind of voted on it and said, well, we'll just go by Guy Boingo for this one. And I think the darkness was just a sign of the times of how Danny was writing.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And you know, it's good when a band goes a little darker. I mean, The Cure did that with Disintegration. All of a sudden, they came out with this dark album with incredible tracks on it, like Lullaby, you know, and Fascination Street. There's nothing wrong with working in a different mood and a different feel. Otherwise, you end up just really plagiarizing yourself all the time. So it's kind of evolution, I think. But that's
the last album actually had more guitar stuff too.
Yeah.
So
a lot of these questions are really people that love Oingo Boingo and have collected all of your records. There's one here that is from Mika McDonald, who one of her favorite albums is the Farewell album, live from the Universal Amphitheater. What a show that was as well. Those series of shows. I think it was 5 nights, wasn't it? At the Universal. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Why was Goodbye Goodbye not on that live album?
Boy, I think it was I don't know whether we recorded it and it didn't sound good. I think that's what it was.
At the end of the night, we're so exhausted. Yes, we had the energy and to kind of keep going, but I don't think it sounded so good, which is why it was left off.
Those were 3-hour shows.
Yes, it's the last song on the 3-hour show. Otherwise, I can't think of why it wouldn't be on.
Fair enough. I mean, you don't want to go out on something that isn't as great as the rest of the material.
But there was a Universal Amphitheater show I'll never forget. That we had like big ovation, and we played all of our songs. And so Danny comes out and says, "Let's play Teenage Monster." Is that
right?
I was Teenage Monster. Yeah. We hadn't even thought of that song for at least 8 years. It's like nobody remembered. And sure enough, it was an entire disaster. People, nobody was. They were in different keys, but nobody was applauding after we did it. So that was the kind of the last time we let the exuberance overtake our
common sense.
Common sense, yes.
It's so funny you should say that, because there's a question about that here. Not about your hubris overcoming common sense, but it's someone says, if I can find it, basically when they were at a show, this girl was, here it is. It was Elizabeth Delancey Baird, rabid fan here. Was blessed to see the final show you played in San Diego. I was in the front row dressed as Princess Leia. Backstage, got to meet you. You were all so nice to me. But when I was standing in the front, I turned around and I saw 18,000 fans in costumes, singing, jumping, and dancing. How do you on stage ever let the night end? Do you want to keep on playing? So I think you kind of answered that. Is there a moment of letdown after the end of a huge show like that, when everyone's just been giving you so much energy and you walk off stage, or are you just exhausted at that point?
That's where the drugs come in, Richard. That could be a problem eventually. So we stopped that a long time ago. I think after the show's over, we're so exhausted. We're just happy we did it, and now we could relax and enjoy the afterglow. I mean,
that's it.
Yeah. At the end of the show, I kind of do something else. I switch modes. I go, I got to clean up everything. I got to put my guitar away. It has to be safe because the crew is going to wreck something. Something's going to fall on me. And so I go into this like, rather than going out and meet the fans. And it's very rude of me, but.
And do you say like, boy, did I suck tonight?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do one last question here. And let me see, I want to find you a really good one here. If you could play, this is from Scott Ramo Morgan. If you could play with one musician, dead or alive, who would it be and why? And let's start with Steve. Ah,
Oh, man.
let's start with Sluggo.
Thank you.
I would probably say Art Blakey, the drummer, the jazz drummer, who you can't sound bad when you play with him or he'd kill you. So I would say Art Blakey, who these kids, they don't know who he is. But anyway, Art Blakey.
Cool. And Johnny, who would it be? Any musician, alive or dead?
I'd have to say Chick Corea. I'd love to play with Chick Corea.
And you could.
And I could. It would be really fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Bartek.
Back to you, Steve.
What? Jeez.
I'll tell you who he'll pick. He'll say
Terry
Raymond
Peterson.
I think he'll say Raymond Scott. What do you think of that, Steve?
That's great. I'd love to have been
In that
George
band?
Barnes to his Raymond Scott. Raymond Scott, his band was tough.
Yeah.
It would have been totally bitching to play with his band.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. You saved me.
Well, you're okay.
Well, I want to say thank you to you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you in just a few days' time at the Ventura County Fairgrounds on the 24th. A drive-in show, so everyone can be safe and just enjoy some great music for the first time in months and months and months and months, where we've all been locked up and done no gigs. So what would you like to say to the fans to encourage them to get the last few tickets?
Now's your chance. Come see us. We're ready to go.
Johnny?
You know, this has been a really terrible time, and we've all just been sitting on our back ends. I know my back end's been sitting around, and it's going to be so exciting. We're all so excited, as pent up and as excited as you are. The band is just as excited to get out and play this show, and I think this is going to be such a great healing, a fun time, and you just got to go. It's just 2020 needs you to be there.
I think
Dave, Johnny kind of said it all, but what would you like to say?
it's been so long since we've been able to interact as musicians that I think all of us are just craving to be on stage with each other. To be able to play like we're supposed to.
Well,
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a
on the
great
24th.
show. Yeah, it's gonna be a great show.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Cool. There'll be a link with this video. If you click on the link, that'll take you to Eventbrite, and you can get the last tickets if there's any tickets still available. But don't miss this show, because as the guy said, it's been a real tough time for the entire planet, and this will be the Halloween show. This is the guys saving Halloween in the true Oingo Boingo tradition. So you got to be there. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the 24th, Saturday in Ventura.
Thanks,
Thank
Richard.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All righty. Perfect.
Yeah.
Lost Sam already. They're good.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks a lot, Richard.
Thank you, guys.
Richard.
I will be sending you this hopefully tomorrow. So if you can post it on social media, that'll be great. And it'll be all over mine.
All right. Thank you.
You
Thanks so
guys
much.
rock. We'll see you there.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
I think so.